The city council, every year we get together in about January and February, and what we do is we go out, we get all of our ideas, and we get the input from our city residents, and we invite them to send us a note what they want to find as priorities. And we kind of bunch them up into groups, if you will, that have some commonalities. And at the end of the day, this is what we came up with as the priorities that our citizens and our city council, who represent the citizens, came up with. So we're going to be talking about the Civic Center, Dillon Road, economic development, financing projects and operations, multimodal improvements, open space, water, and then other key issues. And the other key issues was actually just an acknowledgement that there are things that are going to come up during the year that you have no idea are going to happen. So it was just really kind of an accounting piece to say, allow us and allow the staff to realize there's going to be some key issues and some things that the citizens want that we probably should take a real hard look at. Civic Center development. I want to be clear on the Civic Center. The Civic Center has been an idea that Broomfield's had for a long time. The latest portion that we're talking about is the retail and the housing component within the Civic Center. The Civic Center's been in process a long time. We built the courts there, we built the new city hall there, we have the North Metro Fire District there, and we've also got the Health and Human Services there and other amenities. So the Civic Center retail portion is just the next component. We're pretty lucky and pretty excited what's going on up there on the Civic Center component, because we've got a couple people that are looking at presenting some plans. We've kind of seen some preliminary things. One of the things that we did, the Safeway store there, we actually went out and purchased. There was a company looking to make another fitness club, and we had a bigger vision than just a fitness club where the old Safeway was. So we have purchased that. We don't plan on being a landlord. One of the contingencies of the two companies that are going to help us move that forward is that they take that off our hands. But we should be seeing that in the next 60 to 90 days, those proposals coming before City Council. And I'll guarantee you everyone on City Council is pretty excited about that. Dillon Road. We've been looking at Dillon Road for a while. We've made some improvements on Dillon Road already where we expanded some of the turn lanes. And this is an area we get a lot of emails on. This was an area that we had a lot of citizens come on, because between 7 and 9 in the morning, a lot of times this is a parking lot. And so this has become a major concern. There are some people that say, well, these are people, they're all going through Broomfield to get to work. They're going from Thornton to Boulder. That's not always the case. Some of these people are trying to get out and then drive, take a left to go to Boulder and take a right to go to Thornton. So it also impacts residents of Broomfield. We've also got a school up there, Holy Family. But I think there's some things that could be done to improve this. So we're going to be looking at that this year. Really, if you look at Broomfield at a macro level, you go look at it, we're pretty well served if you go north-south. We got I-25 on the east, we got Sheridan and Lowell, in which we're doing some improvements on Lowell, and then we've got 287 to the west. We're pretty well situated north-south. East-west, not so good. So we're working on those issues moving forward. Market overview. Talking a little bit about this, the unemployment rate in Broomfield is 2.9%, metro-wide 3.1%, state of Colorado 3.4%. I've had a boss that I used to have, he used to tell me that 5% of the people are unemployable. So this would indicate to me that if you want a job in Broomfield, you could probably get a job in Broomfield. So they're available. We got some of our vacancy rates. If you look at the one component, the retail at 12.7, that's going to go down in a hurry because we've got some projects that are moving forward that are going to take care of that, and we'll talk about those right now. We've got Jack's moving in. When I was in college, that was my favorite store. I used to do things like build snow caves when I was snowshoeing, and I would go to Jack's and pick up equipment and be able to get that done. So Jack's was a retail store that I used. I was so excited when they were moving into Broomfield. In fact, the owner, Pat, when he was at our council meeting, I asked him, I said, is it mandatory that they all be located along US Highway 287? And he stopped for a second, and he thought about it. He didn't realize he had 2 stores, Fort Collins, 2 in Lafayette, 1 in Loveland, down in Broomfield, all along 287. And so those, we're happy to see that. We've also got Goodwill. I don't know if you've had a chance to go in there. Goodwill store is actually something that we brought in, and that's actually a fabulous store. And they actually do some things. It's not a normal thrift store. They actually have full mattresses, new socks, new underwears. So it's not all hand-me-downs, but it's actually some nice price stuff for that market. So we're happy to see that. And I'm going to go back over here real quick to the market overview and talk about some things that I did. We've got some new things going on at the Flatiron Marketplace. We are looking at that, the whole US 36 corridor, we call that our creative corridor. And we are lucky that we have a lot of major corporations along there, Oracle, MWH, Ball, and we have world headquarters. We actually are proud to announce we got 2 more that are moving in. Can we mention those, Charles?
You mention as much as you can mention.
Well, I'm not sure what that means, Sean. I can mention what I can mention. Can I quote the Denver Business Journal? Anyway, we've got a couple employers. We've got some new folks that are moving in. We've got a company that has offices all over the world, and they're looking at making Broomfield their North American headquarters. We're pretty excited about that. They handle about $50 billion in assets, so we're pretty excited about them. We also have another company that's relocating out of Kansas. They're going to move their corporate headquarters to Broomfield. They're going to bring about 160, 180 jobs, if you will. These are going to be high-paying jobs in the $80,000 range. And that deal, I believe, I could probably mention, but it'll be in the paper soon enough. They're already coming, and we're excited about that. That's one of the things I just want to point out. Years ago, when we first started having Interlochen and bringing businesses to Interlochen, we were talking with consultants, and one of the things they talked about was housing. They wanted us to elevate our standards in housing. They felt like to bring in some of these big companies, we had to have some really nice housing. So we did that. We went out there and we were able to get the Broadlands developed. We got McKay Landing developed. We were able to get Del Webb and now Anthem to come out. And we have some of that upper level housing. So I think at Broomfield, it's like the average household income's around $82,000. And so that's important to keep in mind. Our goal was to go out and get some of that high-end housing. There is a group at Broomfield, we'll talk about that later. They're kind of in that, what I call the others issues. And we've got an issue or a challenge that council wants to address, and I call it entry-level housing. And that's where you've got young professionals looking to come in and be able to afford to live in Broomfield. But I call that more entry-level housing, not affordable housing, and there is a difference. Enhanced Broomfield. I don't know whose idea that was, but was that yours, Michael? Whose was it? Kevin? Kevin Stanbridge. See, no one likes to take credit in Broomfield. In Broomfield, everybody likes to say, well, it was someone else or someone over here, because we kind of do it as a team. But actually, we're pretty lucky. We got a great council. We work together collaboratively. But Enhanced Broomfield, one of the things that's always come up, and when I was on council in 2001 and 2009, we spend a lot of time. Later this year, Charles and I are going to go out to the International Shopping Center Convention, ICSC in Las Vegas. And we go out there and we work with the Masriches that have Flatirons, and we work with these big mall developers because we're trying to get these big projects. But sometimes you got to be cognizant of you've got smaller organizations, smaller businesses that need some help. So we came up with Enhanced Broomfield program. This was a way that we could help some of the places that, might need a little facelift, and maybe they're right on the edge of deciding whether or not to do a facelift. As a business owner, sometimes those are things you might want to wait. You're always concerned about your bottom line. I read an article one time about, the guy, Warren Buffett. And he invested in a company specifically because they only painted on two sides of their building that people could see. And on the back side where no one could see, they didn't paint on. So he invested in a company because they felt like, you know what, they're really watching their bottom line. But what happens at Broomfield is we had some places that maybe were on the edge, they would like to improve and do some things, but they hadn't quite done it yet. This program allows them to come in, and I think it's up to $25,000 per project. And what we'll do is they come in with a project, and we basically will meet half, if you will. That was kind of the main idea. And it allows the companies to come in and do a facelift. Last year, the Broomfield Sign Company, John Doby, he did some upgrades to his building. It looks beautiful over there. Ciccarelli Enterprises, they did some parking lot improvements. They had some big holes and stuff like that. Again, parking lots are sometimes one of those things on the bottom line. You just kind of wait. You put them off. There's other things that are pressing. So this allows people to move these things. RMN events along Industrial Lane. You drive along Industrial Lane, you can see those improvements from the highway. That building's been sitting in there, kind of a dilapidated condition for years. And now this little catalyst has got them to get that improved, and it kind of cleans up, I hate to call it an eyesore, but it kind of was. But now they're taking that to the next level, and that enhances Broomfield. That's the whole idea. We got Mad Dog Enterprises that did the same thing. This year, we've got 4 projects. We got the Healing Studios and Garden Centers that are looking for painting, landscaping, and windows. The Broomfield Family Practice on Midway Boulevard. What happens is people hear about the availability of these funds, and they're submitting applications. And fortunately, we're able to help them. So this helps our smaller businesses with some much needed improvements. We're also working with the Burbank Office Commons and Source Communications, our 2 other companies that have successfully entered into this program. And I know our city council, if we have more people come up and ask, we will find the funds in order to get this done because it helps our community, it helps our small businesses. Health and Human Services. 1996. Talk about community service. I went to a school improvement team meeting, and sitting at the school improvement team meeting at Birch Elementary, where my daughters were going to school, and I somehow became chairman of that committee. You know, and there was more people there, but I became chairman. As part of being chairman of that committee, there was a grassroots effort to look at Broomfield becoming its own county and school district. Being on the school improvement team, being the president of that organization, I got involved and got asked to go to that meeting. Next thing you know, I'm on the committee for the Citizens for Better Local Government for us to become a city and a county. That's how I got involved. To me, when we got that, it was a statewide vote yes on C, and when we got that approved in 1998, and we became a county approximately 12 o'clock a.m. on November 14, 2001, approximately. This, to me, is a culmination of what we did. When we first started, we were at number 6 Garden Centers, kind of where we shoehorned in our Health and Human Services, and we were renting some space for a workforce center. But the Health and Human Services, to me, epitomizes that effort, that community effort to bring health and human services and provide better access for our citizens. At the time, we were in 4 different counties. We were in Weld, Jefferson, Boulder, and Adams, and our juxtaposition was we were at the corner of all 4 counties. Consequently, we had 0 services in Broomfield. You had to go somewhere else. And the difference by bringing this into our community, bringing it into Broomfield, creating a county, this building to me is kind of the crown jewel of that achievement, because it showcases what our community is, what a caring community we are, and it also shows the Broomfield way. Something else about this building, we actually cash flowed this building. We're not taking out a bond for this. We are cash flowing it. And to me, that's a major thing to talk about, because in Broomfield, we have an overall financial plan. That financial plan takes and looks at retail, commercial, and residential. And because we are a county and we are limited in space, we want to make sure that when we get to build out, that we can continue to provide the services that people have come to like and respect and in some cases demand. Multimodal improvements. There's a lot to talk about on this particular topic, but when you look at new things coming to Broomfield and new transportation projects, one of the things that you have to be cognizant of is multimodal. When we got US 36 done, the reason we got that done is we had a bus component, we had high traffic component, we have a future rail maybe component, but we've also got an 8-foot bikeway component. And that was one of the ways we were able to get federal funding via Tiger grants to get that project done. So when we look at some of these multimodal improvements, one of the things on State Highway 7, I'm going to talk about that real quick. I already mentioned about some of the east-west issues. A couple years ago, I was talking to some of our staff, and I said, we've got these other coalitions that we're a part of, and I think we ought to do something on Highway 7. And her comment was to me, well, Randy, I think if you call everybody, you might be able to get that done faster than me. So next hour and a half, I called the mayor of Boulder, the mayor of Louisville, the mayor of Lafayette, the mayor of Brighton, the mayor of Thornton, the mayor of Northglade, the Adams County Commissioners, Boulder County Commissioners, and 3 weeks later we had our first meeting. And within our first meeting we found out that Boulder was looking to get some funds through Dr. Cog, Denver Regional Council of Governments, to look at some state highway financing and projects so we could do a bus rapid transit system. It's really quite remarkable. We start with an idea in June, and in November, our group actually got awarded funding through Dr. Cog. Generally speaking, it takes 17 years to get a project done, a transportation project done. We actually got our first funding and stuff like that to look at the feasibility studies already. So we're pretty proud of that along Highway 7, and I think it's important because the nexus there, the focal point between Highway 7 and I-25 is the most important intersection in northern Denver metro area, period. And so we look at that from many different ways. I-25, I actually, back in 2008, back when everybody, the taxpayers, most people voted to have that go through, it was called Fast Tracks. How many people voted for Fast Tracks? How many people voted against it? Not very many. Most people voted for it because it's a great idea. It's an idea to get transit throughout the metro area. Well, we saw in 2004, we're sitting up here in Broomfield, and we're going, scratching our head going, where's our share? When are we going to see our share? It wasn't working. So what we did, there was some people, the mayor from Thornton, Eric Hansen, and Nancy McNally with Westminster, and several sagacious people. We got together and we formed what's called the North Area Transit Alliance. And the main reason that the North Area Transit Alliance got formed was to bring FASTAC dollars to our community. I think if we hadn't gotten together at a coalition, we still might be twiddling our thumbs on that. So what's happening with that? Well, you might see I-25. We currently, next year, we'll have that complete up to 144th. We got some additional $5 million in funding this year. And we've got the North Line Rail that'll be done next year up to 124th. And we're actually working on that to get that to take a little left turn and come into up there by Highway 7 and I-25. And I would venture to guess that you will see rail in north side of Broomfield before you'll see it along US 36. The current model at US 36 shows we might have that in 2042. In the meantime, I think what will happen is a lot of people will take a look at, does it make sense to put a train up there on US 36? I think there's some questions now, and there might be some other models moving forward that we might want to rethink that a little bit. One of the things that we're doing when we talk about multimodal is I just asked our staff to look at what they did down in on the south part of Denver in Greenwood Village, where they've worked with Uber on doing some last mile considerations. So they've got their train or little light rail going through there. Now they've got Uber working on that last mile. So when I go out and visit major corporations, generally there's two things they're concerned about: transportation and restaurants. and then transportation, and then transportation. That's one of the main concerns that they're worried about is transportation. So the final mile is one of the things that we're going to be working on. US 36 and BRT. We started working on this project. How long did I tell you that it takes to get a project done? Guess how long it took? 17 years to get this done, to get to this phase. 17 years we started working on this US 36 bus rapid transit system. How many people have here had an opportunity to try it? Do you like it? I like it. I think it's wonderful. One of the things that's happening, some of the people I've talked to, they say they can get to work faster than they ever have in the past. It's got like 4 to 5 minute head time, so you're standing there for a bus, it fills up, it takes off, the next one's right behind it within 4 minutes. So it's working, and it's working well. And I think this is a great thing for our area. RTD ordered 59 buses originally. They're actually having to go out and look for more. That's one of the things that's being looked at because it's been successful. Kind of one of the things that happened when light rail first started down South Denver. One of the big problems they had on the first day at the station at Mineral and down there is they didn't have enough parking. They underestimated the need and the ridership. So I'm kind of happy to hear that we've underestimated and we're going to need more buses. I think that's a great thing for us. One thing that we are going to have some discussion of, and I'm pretty transparent, and I will tell you now, one of the big concerns that people have had is the Hove lanes. It's a little bit different. You got your little pass on there, and you can drive through there, and if you've got 2 people in there, you drive through, it doesn't cost you any money. One of the things that we talked about years ago was HOV2 versus HOV3. When we first started talking about HOV2 and HOV3, this is back in like 4 or 5 years ago. So here we just get fast tracks up and running this year. That HOV2 and HOV3 discussion, January 31st, 2017. It's kind of like a wake-up call because, you start talking about this 5 or 6 years ago, you think, oh, that's 5 or 6 years, don't have to worry about it. Well, all of a sudden, we just get it open, and guess what? The HOV2 and HOV3 discussion is going to come up. So I think there's going to be some interesting discussions that are going to take place over the next 6-7 months on how to do this, and if we want to do it. And there's also some discussions on the transponder uses along I-25 and other places. There's a Senate Bill 123. I think I got ahead of myself, Jen. We're going to talk about that for a little while. Anyway, I want to talk about, I already talked about NADA, talked about US 36, West Connect. I want to talk about West Connect. I mentioned it to people. If you look at most metro areas, you have got a circle of a highway around the whole city. In Broomfield, if you go 36 to 25 and 76, take 470 around, you've got Pac-Man. It doesn't make sense. So I was up at Colorado County Zinc, had to think about that. And I was talking with a couple of the county commissioners from Jefferson County, and I said, we should come up with a coalition or something to figure out how we're going to get these connected from US 36 down to I-70. So we came up with West Connect. And that's an idea that we got signed up last year. And we've got all the communities along that corridor from Superior to Golden, Arvada, Jefferson County, Morrison, Broomfield, and everybody involved, Westminster. And we have come up with a coalition that we are now working on the West Connect. We're working on CDOT 1601 plan right now, and I think we're actually about ready to sign off on that. Is that right? Kevin's shaking his head yes. He's on the, what is it called, the working group? The technical working group is what we call it. So we've been lucky to have Kevin on that. But that West Connect's moving forward, and we keep bringing that up because at some point in time we need to take away that Pac-Man and come up with a full circle. So we're working on that. 40% open space goal. If you think about it, if you're driving along Lowell or other places and you look and you've got at least 300 foot of open space, can you see the mountains? The answer is yes, you can. That is very important to Broomfield. Years ago, Broomfield went to the citizens, took a vote, and we decided to tax ourselves an extra 0.25% for open space and parks. Our citizens made that choice. One of the goals was to have 40% open lands. You can see the model, we're at 33.6, so we're getting close. And it's important as the council now discusses how we got to get there and those type of things. You know, it's one of those things at Broomfield where we like our open space. It's very critical to a lot of residents in Broomfield to be able to have those trails, to be able to use that open space. It's very important for us to have enough parks. We're actually excited. We're opening up a new pod. Has anyone driven along Sheridan and see the new pod we're opening up? We are. We're opening up a new pod. So we've got increased pressure. You know, if you'd have told me 10 years ago we needed to start concern ourselves because of proliferation and growth of lacrosse leagues, I'd have said, what? But now we do. It's a great thing. You know, it's another avenue for kids to get out there and play and get healthy. So we got lacrosse, we got soccer, we've got Frisbee leagues going on. It's just amazing the things that are happening in the county commons. But it's always been important to our council to make sure that we got plenty of open space. And so this is one of the things that council always gets to wrestle with, because to get to that goal, we're probably going to need to look at possibly bonding some of that money and to be able to buy some of that space, because as land becomes more and more valuable in Broomfield, do you want to buy it down here or do you want to buy it 20 years down there? You know, so that comes that discussion on what's the best to do, and we're going to have some interesting discussions on that. The Broomfield 100. Broomfield 100. I walked out of the library last year. I'm part of the One Book, One Broomfield, which was started by Mayor Karen Stewart. And it's a thing where the idea is to select a book, and then everybody in all the book clubs read that one book. And then we get together and we have a presentation. Last year, the book that we took was Never Home by Laird Hunt, which I understand is now going to be made into a movie, which is interesting because the other book that we were trying to get the author, he couldn't make it because his movie, The Martian, he couldn't make it to ours. So, you know, if you get selected by Broomfield, I'm just going to say you might get a movie contract later. But anyway, the Broomfield 100, I walked out of a meeting one time, and I remember when I used to go to the old number 3 Mamie Dowd Eisenhower Library as a kid, I'd ride my bike there, and they had these little things where if you read 20 books during the summer, I think you got a sticker or something. I don't remember what you got. But I walked out of there, and we've got this Healthy Broomfield initiative. And we got people that are working to lose weight. It's great. We work with Cigna, and they do a great job. How many pounds did they lose last year, the 20 people? Ann, do you remember? 300 pounds. 20 people lost 300 pounds in what, a 6-8 week period? That's unbelievable. So Broomfield's real strong in healthy initiatives. So I come out of a council meeting hearing about this, and then I come One Book, One Broomfield the following day on a Wednesday. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we came up with a program and utilized our trails and brought kids to the trails and brought our community to the trails. So the Broomfield 100, we identified about 24, 25 trails and a culmination of about 100 miles, and we came out with this passport. And those passport listed all these trails throughout the community. It was kind of neat because there's a lot of public art that we put out there and a lot of trails that people probably didn't even realize they were in Broomfield or even in their neighborhood. We had something like 850 people sign up for the passport and about just under 300 that actually completed it, which was amazing. But the cutest, you know, we do this, we open it with Broomfield Trails Day, which coincides with National Trails Day, which is always the first Saturday in June, is when we start it. And then we end it at Broomfield Days, which is always the third Saturday in September. And there was a gal in her cane. She brings up her book. She says, I don't know if I earned a t-shirt. I didn't quite get to all the trails. She was fabulous. You know, you just wanted to give her a hug. She went out there and actually tried to do a lot of these trails. We gave her a t-shirt. You know, you got to give a t-shirt. So we're pretty excited. We're doing this program for the second year. It's backed by popular demand. And for the people that really, really want to get out there, maybe we ought to say, well, okay, so we only got 100 miles. Maybe we give them an award if they do it 10 times. seriously, there was a few bike enthusiasts that got it done in 1 week. They got the 100 miles in 1 week. So that's something else. Water. How many people drink water? How many people think water is important? Yeah, I think water is important. So what we've done, as a community, you can't really grow. If you don't have water, can you grow? You can't grow. Can you run your business? Probably not. This project, the Windy Gap project we've been working on, we finally got some approvals. It's been approved by the Bureau of Reclamation, and I think there's a few little tweaks we've still got to work, but we've got the Chimney Hollow Reservoir coming. The Chimney Hollow will allow us to get to our build-out. Our estimated build-out currently is about 120 to 125,000 people. That may go up. As we look at transit-oriented development, as we look at entry-level housing and these type things, in order to get entry-level housing, we might have to build up. Some of these toads you might have to build up. We're kind of limited to how high we can go. What is it, 13 stories, Charles? In fact, the Omni here, thank the Omni, when they were first coming with their hotel, it was bigger than any of our ladder trucks, so they helped us with the ladder trucks. So thank you, Danny, back there. And so the Chimney Hollow Reservoir is a big project. This water is going to be coming from Grand Lake. They call it the Windy Gap Firming Project, but it's excess water that may occur from time to time, year to year. And we're going to take that water that comes up time to time, year to year, and we're looking at building this reservoir. It's up by Carter Lake. And this reservoir, when it's built, is going to be the largest water project. No, back up. It's going to be the largest facility, the largest dam built in the state of Colorado. Won't be the largest reservoir, but it will be the largest water structure in the state of Colorado. We own 29% of this. And this is what's going to secure our water rights for build-out. And that's very important. When I first got on council back in 2001, I met with then Assistant City Manager Charles, and he said water is one of the most complicated issues, but one of the most important that you're going to get to deal with. I've never forgotten that. And as we move closer and closer and closer, this project's getting pretty close. We've got a company in Broomfield, MWH, and we certainly hope they get that contract. They are one of the premier companies on the planet for building water structures. So we got 29%. If it was a vote, we would certainly vote for them 100%. And we hope that we get to see that. State legislature, we've been pretty lucky. We've got Jennifer Hoffman over here, which is our lobbyist, and Broomfield's always in the middle of things. One of the reasons we're in the middle of things, you've got a group called CCI, which is Colorado Counties, and then you've got Colorado Municipal League. And so most people are with one or the other. Well, we're both. So a lot of times, Broomfield, we kind of get involved with a lot of the discussions. We're kind of central to a lot of discussions because people want to know what we're going to say. So it's pretty exciting. We're lucky to be in the middle of those. We've got some things that the hospital provider fee that you've probably all heard about, is that, how is that going to relate to transportation? One of the bills that we're looking at running this year that Broomfield's looking to sponsor, and we're kind of working with the leadership of the Senate and leadership of the House. We call it the Transit Value Capture Corridor. And what we're trying to do there is take that 2.9% sales tax piece and be able to use that for economic development projects moving forward. It's not exactly a TIF. It's different than TIF because these are the state tax dollars. If you have any questions, I have other information on it, and Jennifer can gladly explain it to you. And I've got to make that presentation many times, but I don't want to go into it all here. But it's exempt from Tabor funds, and it's something novel, it's something new, and it will help move projects forward. Because basically, we'd be able to work with our developers and being able to help them with some of the infrastructure to kind of be as a catalyst and get some of these projects complete. Volunteer Day. I get to go to a lot of things. And one of the things I went to last year was a mayor's retreat, and it was in San Diego, and it was gorgeous out. But one of the things that was brought up was Volunteer Day that some other communities do. So this year, we are going to have a Volunteer Day, and I believe we're launching that with our local high school, and that'll be on May 1st. And a lot of it's going to be to recognize a lot of our volunteers. And in Broomfield, we have a lot of volunteers. We are very lucky. We've got Fish, we've got Precious Child, we've got the Veterans Group. We've just got a lot of groups, and we want to be able to recognize volunteers on Volunteer Day. Thank you. Is there any questions?
How many small business applicants are applying for Enhanced Broomfield? So are you able to grant those funds to all the businesses, or is there such a high demand that you have to send businesses away?
There's actually currently $33,000 unaccounted for this year. There is one entity I know is going to be submitting an application. I think council's feel, my feel is, and I don't get to vote, by the way, unless it's a tie. But I think that our council, if it's a project for $25,000 that's going to enhance it, we will find those dollars to do that. So if you know of someone that might be interested, I encourage you to get a hold of Michael and get with him, and we'll get you an application. You know, if we've got 10 more companies that want to sign up for that this year, I think we would probably find a way, is my feel with council. Last year, like I said, we did the 4, and we actually had a couple that didn't make it because originally we started with $100,000, but those were first on the list this year, is kind of how it worked. But I think if we had more applicants, we would figure it out how to get that moved forward, because it's really a good program for the small to medium businesses, you know, that facelift and just kind of help things out a little bit. You know, it's always good to go, you know, repaint the living room once in a while and those type things. Any other questions?
How come you said Highway 7 and I-25 is the most important intersection?
How come?
Yeah.
Because it is. When you look at a map and you look at east-west travel and you go down south, you've got County Line Road, then you got 6th Avenue, which actually doesn't go all the way across. Then you got I-70. When you look from I-70 north, there is not a single road that you can go all the way east to west. You can come close. 120th comes pretty close, but even 120th stops here in Broomfield. You can't get to Boulder. You can't get to the foothills. So none of them go all the way across. There's only one road, east-west, that goes all the way from Highway 76 in Brighton. Highway 7 actually goes all the way up into Estes Park, technically. But when you look, that's the only road, so it's very important. When you look at I-25, it is the most heavily used road north-south. So right there, you've got the nexus of, to me, the most important intersection. When you look at it, and we've got the train coming up on the north side, the North Rail, which is actually a commuter rail, not a light rail, it's a commuter rail. When it comes up and we get that to take a little left turn, and we're looking for funding and we got to work on that a little bit, but we're trying to get it to I-25 and Highway 7. So when I look at that intersection, it's going to be kind of like the focal point of transportation. So people will be able to drive up there, take a train, take it down to downtown Denver. They will be able to take bus rapid transit between Boulder and Brighton. It is really going to be an important intersection. There's also another thing they call the bus stang, which has started, which goes from Fort Collins all the way down to Colorado Springs. It's going to run through that intersection. You know, when you just look at it, and then eventually you're going to have the loop complete, which is only going to be a few miles away from I-25 and Highway 7. That area right there, to me, is the most important intersection in the north side.
Mayor, will Route 7 sooner or later be 4-lane all the way?
Up to Boulder. I think from Brighton to Broomfield, absolutely. When you go on the other side of 287, if you've ever driven Highway 7 between US 287 into Boulder, and you're kind of going up and down those hills, you're kind of limited to how fast you could go by the car in front of you. And I've seen it up to 20, 30 cars, kind of like a little caravan, behind one car that's going 25 miles an hour, and that's how fast they're going to go. So Boulder in general, and I don't know how many live in Boulder, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's their philosophy. They don't like 4-lane roads coming into Boulder, with the exception of US 36. Everything else is a 2-lane road going into Boulder for the most part. So when you talk about Highway 7, I understand. I drive Arapahoe all the time. And sometimes I get stuck behind that 125-mile-an-hour guy, and he's not going any faster, and I'm the 24th car back there. I'm not going anywhere. So I just got to ride it out. It's a good question. Anything else?
Wasn't there a study done, or is there a study that's done at Highway 7 and I-25 area population-wise? It's just going to boom and keep booming.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but good point. To add on to that, we had at the NATA study, that I'm actually chairman of NATA this year, at the NATA study, we had all the economic development departments come in between Westminster, Thornton, North Glen, Broomfield, Erie, and got together and we asked all the economic development to come in there and kind of tell us, what do you think is going to happen over the next 20 years? What do we think is going to happen in the next 20 years? You're going to have another city about the size of Broomfield, which is currently 68,000, about the 570th largest city in the country. We are going to have another city right there. That's just based on the projections from the developers and from the plats and everything that are already decided or are in process. So we're going to have essentially another 70,000 residents within about a 15, 20-mile radius of Highway 7 and I-25. So, good point. Good questions.